Hey guys, welcome back to JD Mods for another video on the Rx7 build. You saw hopefully in the last video that I completely assembled the interior, installed both subframes, and just got a lot of work done on the Rx7. If you haven't seen those videos, go check them out. I'm doing a whole series on this build, of course. And as promised, today we are going to be working on the engine bay reassembly, which is not going to be super exciting, but we still have to do it so that we can see the progress from start to finish. So let me show you guys what we're doing today. So here's what we got to work with. Slightly started already, but basically an empty engine bay on the Rx7 here. Painted Montego blue, of course, and clear coated so it looks really nice. Don't mind the dust, it's been sitting for a while, but hopefully you guys can tell that it is very nice paint. As you can see, I didn't clear coat some spots like under the cowling, but I of course had to clear coat the engine bay because you guys know I like a nice clean engine bay. A slight tangent, just beside the Rx7 is the Insight. We're going to be doing an update video on this one shortly. Basically, we built it past April, and it's been driven this whole summer by Ali's dad. It's his car that I built for him, and it is running great. So I'm going to be doing a whole update video on this car as well. It was just in here to get the engine bay all cleaned up, ready for winter storage. But one thing to note is that this is clearly a fairly tucked, cleaned up, aftermarket style engine bay. And on the Rx7, I'm going with more of an OEM engine bay, kind of doing all the stock wiring, stock fuse boxes, AC, everything like that. So it won't look as clean as the K-Sight, my Aristo, Ali's LS400, etc. But it'll be OEM, easy to work on, and hopefully keep the value of this car as high as can be. So here's what we got to install. So it's still a bit of a mess, but my parts pile is getting smaller. We have the ABS module with the brake lines that go across the engine bay. This bin just has like a brake line and an AC line. We got some reservoirs. This is all the oil cooler stuff. I bought dual oil coolers for this car over from a guy named Dan Watson in the UK. He's on Facebook. Got a great deal on this dual oil cooler setup. Really stoked because this only came with a single oil cooler when I bought it. I got all the AC lines because we're keeping AC on this car. That's still the window trim I got to deal with later. But we got the cowling, the steering shaft, I think that's what it's called. We got some braces, we got some throttle cables, some brackets. There's actually not too much in this video. Over here we got a couple igniters, horn, hood latch, which I'm not sure if I'm using with the carbon fiber hood. I don't remember. Then of course we got the wiper motor, some more miscellaneous brackets, and bear with me here, a couple rusted out parts. We've got the brake booster to install, AC part. I don't know much about AC systems. We got some tow hooks, a rusted out horn, and just a couple rusty brackets. Obviously, I can't install this on such a beautiful engine bay. So all these parts are going to be sandblasted or wire wheeled and then painted with Rust-Oleum black. But for now, let's do something else. So I'm going to keep this video short because it's boring. I'm only doing it to show the complete progress as I mentioned. So I'm going to go ahead and start with probably the igniter, the windshield motor, some of the windshield components that go under here in this little groove in here. And then we're going to probably work on the ABS module with brake lines coming across the engine bay. I kind of already did most of the wiring that I can for now. That's kind of like the wiring harness that goes onto the engine. So we're just going to do everything we can, and I'll keep you guys updated. So moving right along here, we got a bunch more done. I installed the ABS kind of unit over here. It just bolts with a bracket. I got the window wiper motor and all the bars for the window wipers. This has a bunch of brake lines that go across the firewall. I installed the coolant hard pipe that goes from the heater core up to, I'm assuming, a front heater line on the motor. I did the drive shaft, a heat shield under there. We got the clutch sleeve connected to the brake pedal. And I also got the coolant reservoir and the windshield washer reservoir, or vice versa. Yep, coolant's on this side, rad's fluids on the other side. We got the horn on, we did some grounds. I'm going to probably install that crash bar in a second. And the other thing I did was paint the rusted components. You should remember that these ones were all kind of rusty. I assume we had a brake fluid leak before, because this was all kind of stripped and rusting. You never saw these before, but these are the wiper blade arms. They were really gross. Oh, paint's pretty durable. That's good. Horns, some tow hooks, this little AC piece. I taped off the top. It looks great. Just some odd brackets, odds and ends. So all those are painted and ready to be installed. So I'm going to install all of those. And that's getting close to a lot of the little stuff. It's just a lot of little assembly in this video, but I had to make it or else it wouldn't make sense in the series. So I'm going to keep puttering away on that. Then hopefully I can figure out something for the window seal, because I didn't realize this, but I took it out to paint so that I could get in the crack. But you're not able to put the window seal back in without taking out the windshield. But I'm not taking out this windshield because it's in perfect condition and they're not really cheap. So I'm going to have to figure out a solution for that. So stay tuned for that. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and install the brake booster and a bunch of those other black painted parts. Oh, and then we can do AC lines and a couple other things. Here's just a little reminder for anyone doing some rebuilding after painting. So basically, just a reminder that whenever you have something that grounds to the frame, obviously if you didn't tape it off when painting, which I don't because it's just a lot of work, and there's really no need to, is that when you're done painting and ready to assemble, you want to make sure that the parts can actually touch the metal frame for grounding, not just be insulated by the paint. So I did that on obviously the grounding straps, this one and this one. And also I'm about to do it for this horn. I'm not too sure if these horns are like that, but a lot of horns ground through the body, and then this is just power. So assuming that it is, I'm being extra careful, and I'm just grinding off with a little Dremel with a sander on the end, just like this. I'm grinding off some metal on both sides. This one will help contact the bolt face, and this one will help contact the shell of the car. And then on the car side of things, I did the same thing. Just ground off the paint and primer down to bare metal. And also I have a little tap here. You could also probably just use a bolt and go through twice if you don't have a tap. But I'm just going to tap this little M6 hole just to make sure that there's no paint inside the threads, which also will be used to ground the bolt. So just a little reminder to make sure you do that so that your grounds are all good, or else you're going to run into a lot of problems. So we're making good progress on the RX-7. As you can see, it is beside the other right-hand drive car in the garage, so it looks right at home. So I got the front crash bar on. I got the right-hand side fender liner. It's the only one I have right now. I have to order the left-hand side one. I finished all the brake lines. Sorry about the shadow and my voice. I'm a little sick. So I got the reservoir and the master in there, connected all the brake lines, and even got them to fit in those OEM little holder things all the way along the firewall. So it actually looks very clean, very OEM. Let me show you over here. Of course, before installing anything, I give it a good one-over, good cleanup. Got the hood latch on there, got this little AC canister on here, all painted up and beautiful. Basically now I have to do the AC lines. So they're just over here. Let me show you. So here are the AC lines. Pretty much same condition as all the parts on this car. They're kind of like dirty, corroded. The rubber is really dingy. There's a bunch of grease on all the fittings. There's a good shot right there. All the kind of plastics are kind of yucky and brittle and fragile. There's kind of like zip ties and stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and clean up all 4 of those lines. I believe I can install 2 or 3 of them now, and the rest I might just wait for the motor to be installed. But yeah, we're really getting down to it. So let me clean those up, install them, and show you guys how they look. So quickly before I install that AC line I cleaned up, I'm going to show you guys kind of my technique I used. It started like you saw, kind of like the line on the bottom, and now I got it real nice on all surfaces. You can see came out quite nice in my opinion. Nice and shiny back to polished aluminum. So basically I started with a wire wheel on some of the harder spots, like the fittings, just to get the big gunk off. Not too much wire wheeling because it scratches quite a bit. Then I did a mixture of wet sand, green Scotch-Brite, and blue Scotch-Brite to get off the majority of the kind of corrosion caked on there. That's not just grease, that is like in the metal. You can see it's really hard to get off. So around 400 to 800 grit, as well as the 2 different grit Scotch-Brites. And a little bit of alcohol in there helps sometimes to really break up the corrosion. Then I wiped all off the kind of like corrosion water, then finished off with some Mother's California gold metal polish on a microfiber cloth, and that's what it ended up turning out like. Let's toss her in the engine bay and I'll show you what it looks like. Now that I've cleaned up all the AC lines, I went ahead and installed them. You can see the one going from the firewall all the way to this guy up here. Then there's another line, the small one on the right, that goes down to your AC rad. I'm not quite sure what it's actually called. As you can see, I also installed the actual radiator, which is a like a V-mount setup. For anyone who doesn't know about FDs, probably because of the really small engine, the rotary engine. And then of course I have installed the AC rad, again don't know what it's called, just down here. You can see I painted all the brackets with POR 15, keep them looking super fresh. And anyway, that will pretty much conclude the episode of engine bay accessory installation. Wasn't a super exciting episode, but had to happen. In terms of the cowling, I'm waiting on a couple of clips I ordered brand new to make sure the cowling is super secured. I ended up installing the windshield trim, just took forever, and I used some sealant. I can show you that right here because you're not really supposed to be able to install these with the windshield in, but I did a pretty good job by kind of cutting back the silicone under the windshield and then kind of adding my own as I put the seal in. So it turned out pretty good. Nothing to complain about there. And aside from that, everything else is looking really good. So like I said, the goal of this engine bay was not to be super tucked or anything, just to be clean OEM. So that's what we've gone with. So in the next video, basically I'm going to be starting the teardown and rebuild on my 13B, just underneath this garbage can here. There it is, the 13B REW twin turbo motor, of course. You can see I have all the accessories that I already took off. Everywhere, accessories everywhere. So I'm going to be rebuilding that motor. There's the transmission. And also over here, super quick, little sneak preview, the red bumper I just bought with a west wing front lip. It's kind of hidden behind the Aristo lip right there. But that is a future video. I'm going to cut this one short right here. Just a little filler video. Hopefully you guys weren't too bored. And stay tuned for the rebuild in the next video, and then it'll be together before we know it. So thanks for watching. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe.